Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We'll just give another second or two for everyone's computers to join and get video capabilities. At this time, International Market Centers welcomes you, and Las Vegas Market welcomes you to our summer market programming. Today we have our first look 2020 with Julie Smith-Vincenti of Nine Muses Media. She'll be going through the different options of new trends and products available at Las Vegas Market. Please be aware that we are recording this and it will be available afterward. If you missed it, it will be on our website with a link. It also is CEU approved, so that will be sent out tomorrow. So at this time, Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent, thanks Kim, and hello everyone, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for First Look. This is our virtual experience. For those of you who know our program, you know that typically we are on campus with displays and educational programming and a publication. We're coming to you though as a new experience, a new adventure in these extraordinary times. Needless to say, while other things may feel like they're on pause, the trends and the home furnishings industry moves forward. And so I'm here to kind of guide you through some of what you can look for as you begin your sourcing for the summer 2020 edition of Las Vegas Market. Very briefly, the first look process is as follows, and this has been true for our virtual experience, as is the case with our displays and at market experiences too. We identified 3, 4, in this case about 5 or 6 themes. We ask all the tenants who exhibit at Las Vegas Market to submit product. And I have the great honor of curating those down to about 150 or so products that I share with you. Today is a half-hour program. I'm going to move really quickly. We're focusing on furnishings. A week from today, we'll be focusing on gifts and tabletop and housewares. So I hope you can join us for both. Each is worth half a CEU credit, as Kim had shared. With that being said, we're going to open with our first theme, which we are calling Prince Charming, and it's also a combination of a secondary theme that we call True Romance. The key thing here is, as these images likely show, is the importance of flowers, the importance of floral patterns, and where we're at right now. Rather than a sort of tropical setting, we are instead in a more meadow, pastoral, country-like setting. And you can see that the scale of these flowers compared to past seasons where we've seen giant bouquets as accent wallpaper, the scale is much smaller, so smaller scale and medium scale. Additionally, I want to point out that our Prince Charming and our True Romance trends are also ushering in and a welcome ushering in of purple tones. That being said, a couple other points. We've been looking at realistic interpretation of flowers for the past few seasons. We've also been looking at fantastical interpretations. The net in the end is that we're also still very much influenced by bringing the outdoors in, and you see that here in this room setting on the left. That being said, we are also drawing inspiration for our Prince Charming and our True Romance, looking to Pantone's Synergy palette. And this is part of their Home and Interiors 2021. And as you can see, this isn't about purples overtaking blues or greens. Instead, this is very much about the incoming purple tones and pinky taupe tones complementing these blues and greens. With that being said, we're going to kind of dive right into some of the products that you can source then at Las Vegas Market, including this lovely chandelier, this lovely fixture from Lantern and Scrolls. This is a new participant in our First Look program this season. It's copper, available in some custom finishes. The fixture itself is about 16 inches, and it is a lovely complement to this Synergy palette for sure. Another interpretation, this is from Cass Rugs, and this has us in that space where it's the purples very much complementing the blues and the greens. And you see that sort of playing out here. There's still kind of a tropical vibe to this design, which is part of the company's Sparta collection. It has a sort of vintage vegetable dye feel to it, a wonderful hand, and a nice a brush finish to this design. Modway's nod to this sort of synergy palette. This is their Revive sofa, and it ships to consumers, easy to construct. We've been hearing now about incoming mint values, and those are starting to sort of take hold in the introductions we're seeing here for summer market. So take note of how well this mint color pairs up with the gold finish. Another example from Carolyn Frank, they're calling their mint color in this display, in this ensemble, surf, and they've paired it with indigo. There's a couple other collections here as well, especially a blue that looks very great against that Captain's blue from the Synergy palette. At the same time, we're seeing these bluish greens. We also received some introductions that played up the more yellow cast greens, and so some citron-based colors, some citron-based greens. And so with that being said, here's a new abstract from Paragon that pairs up with the blue. In this case, it's with a silver finish. And here's another example of that citron pairing up with the greens and the blues. This is also from Carolyn Frank. This is their Tony hand-tied tassel and fringe pillow. It speaks to some of that bohemian mood, but it also sort of stands on its own in another sort of style, interiors for sure. 100% cotton design. One of the things that I think is noteworthy with regard to where we're at with this mint color is to see how well it pairs and how versatile it's sort of surprisingly versatile when you see it paired with two different metal finishes. On the one hand, paired up with an aged brass, it takes on this sort of traditional, sort of nostalgic retro feel. And then paired up with this sort of brushed silver, it takes on a rather modern or sort of contemporary feel. Both of these pendants are from Hudson Valley Lighting, designed by Mark Sykes. This is Pendant 1 and Pendant 2. Another thing that's interesting about this mint in terms of how it pairs up with metal finishes is how well it pairs up with, in this case, white. And the product I want you to take note of are the planters. Those are from Sagebrook Home. But look at how well it pairs up with white for this very sort of crisp, clean look. It also is a nice companion to the sort of millennial pinks that we've been seeing. And I'd like you to also just make a style note that as an incoming pattern, take note of the sort of fern wallpaper that you're seeing there. Again, some of these more cottage meadow inspirations coming in to sort of challenge some of that island sort of tropical look. At the same time, you can take this mint color and pair it up with white. It also takes on its own personality if you're pairing it up with black, or in this case, black and gold. Something that feels a little 80s retro vintagey, or can even sort of take on a deco or even nouveau kind of mood and feel. This mint color also pairs up very nicely with any number of neutrals. This is a slide from a presentation that I gave in the spring, but I wanted to sort of introduce that. This company, Furmob, is at Las Vegas Market, so you can source this brand, whether you source virtually or source at the showrooms next month. But look at how well it pairs up, not just with the natural elements, but also with a number of very popular neutrals that we're seeing in the marketplace for sure. This is a good sort of segue into another theme that we're looking at that we're calling kind of true romance. And I would argue that this kind of comes in to challenge again some of the island living or the sort of tropical vibe, maybe even capturing a little bit of market share from that sort of bohemian vibe. This is about a backdrop that's a little bit more formal. This is very feminine, this sort of lovely billowy ruffles, and then brings down that formality by introducing some casual sort of woven materials. If we were to sort of look to summer Las Vegas market introductions to sort of illustrate the mood and the feel of this image, we could look no further than these lovely metal 3D wall sculptures from Sagebrook Home, or even these sort of woven pieces that very easily can go in a sort of tropical mood or island living vibe, but somehow can kind of take on this more sort of formal romantic element as well. These two pieces of furniture are from New Pacific Direct. They are not in the PDF that you can download. This is actually a good moment for me to just make mention. In the chat area of today's webinar, there should be a PDF link, a link to a PDF rather, that you can use to download and then see the names and the showroom locations of all the companies that we're featuring here. So just take note in the chat session if you wanted to go ahead and download that PDF. That sort of romantic mood continues on, whether it's a very verdant velvet sofa, this is from Norwalk, or this lovely permanent botanical in this very classical weathered arrangement from Ivy Guild. Ivy Guild is a new exhibitor participant in our First Look program this time around. And the palette that you see here is in fact a Pantone apparel palette, but it seems very appropriate for a romantic mood in that it has a very fiery red alongside these very delicate pinkish taupes, and then of course grounded in this almost mossy green. That same palette in play here with a new area rug from Kaladi. This is the Ankara Area Rug. It combines wool and synthetic yarns to have a really wonderful hand, a nice sort of lustrous feel to it. And again, it takes these sort of colors that are very modern and it applies those to a traditional Uşak pattern. That being said, take note, because you're going to hear me say this quite a bit in the next segment, this modern sensibility with traditional references is something that's very important moving into 2021. Another sort of romantic interpretation. This is from Pacific Coast Lighting with this lovely sort of pink, almost Depression era glass, this very almost Victorian form. Glass in general is a material that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. We're seeing a lot of great artful pieces coming in the way of glass that really makes this material a nice change of pace and a nice addition to rooms with velvet and rooms with a lot of metal finishes. Another, even if we amp up and pump up these colors a little bit, there's still a sort of romance to it. This is a company that specializes, Albert Punk, that specializes in bamboo, lacquered bamboo. And here you see how these blues and these greens and these purples play so well together. A final note in terms of where these purple hues are going to be playing out in 2021. For several seasons, we have seen these neutral interiors, and we've added some liveliness to them, whether we opt for warm or whether we opt for cool by adding some metal finishes. And then we find that sort of one accent color to help rejuvenate the space, to add a little bit of pep in the step, so to speak. So we have looked at reds as that complementary color, as that accent color. We've looked at indigo as that complementary color. And then look here in this example of just how well the purple plays in. And purple plays extremely well with the greens, whether we're bringing the greens in from the outside and having a lot of live plant material in our spaces, or whether we see this green as just this lovely backdrop by which the purple ultimately pops. Now we're going to move into a segment that we're calling traditional-ish. So if you follow the custom home building, home construction, you know that this neo-traditional has been a word that's been thrown around for a couple years now. And really what what we wanted to do with our traditionalists is kind of take a look at how furnishings play into this tendency on the part of homeowners, especially millennials. Now, as you know, when we're talking about millennials, we're talking about a whole span of consumers that range from early 20s to mid 30s. A lot of this segment really still speaks, is really about addressing those older millennials who are approaching the new milestones, approaching the new life stages, and quite frankly, given the current interest rates on homes, are likely considering their first home purchase that's taking them out of the city. That being said, what we're seeing the sort of style preference and moods evolve to is designs that have these sort of traditional roots, these sort of grounded in traditional elements, and yet take on this very sort of modern sensibility. So there's comfort in the familiar, but something decidedly modern. I'm from Chicago. This is a great interior by Summer Thornton. She's a Chicago-based designer, which I think illustrates this point almost to the T. So we've got classical elements, whether that's in the form of the chairs or even like a black and white check or even the complex molding on the walls, yet made in a very modern given a sort of modern spin to address the sort of style preferences of shoppers who want something that very much defines themselves. Now, for those of you who've been in the industry like I have for about 25, 26 years now, this idea of new traditional isn't really new. But past interpretations of this new traditional have really centered on the idea of you're going to incorporate those one or two accent pieces alongside new furnishings. This is something different. This is about actual elements, design inspirations, identifiable style cues that impart a certain confidence because they look familiar, yet are decidedly new and decidedly modern. So with that being said, kind of dive into some of the products that sort of speak to this mood. So first up, we have an area rug by Cass Rugs. This is their Crete area rug. Has a great high-low pile. It has a wonderful hand. From a style note, just I'd mentioned ferns earlier, I'd like you to take note of the scrolls and some of these more classical patterns that have been very familiar if you've been through that whole architectural element phase in home furnishings. We're starting to see these scroll patterns and traditional tile patterns as a go-to, as an alternative to the abstracts, as an alternative to those sort of repeating lattice patterns or geometric patterns. So just a style note to be mindful of moving into 2021. You heard me mention glass just a moment ago, and glass is really a category that I think is going to be command a lot of attention moving into 2021. Here we have this lovely piece from Cyan Designs. This is their Meduse vase. It has, it's blue, and it has this wonderful sort of silver white finish. Whether you're going cool or whether you're going warm, these traditional-ish spaces there's a number of products that sort of speak to either of those temperature personalities. And we seem to be going back. Here's another example from Paragon, a traditional shape, a sort of traditional frame, and yet it's put in the context of this white, pristine, sort of modern setting. Another example of white as being sort of instrumental in telling some of this story, paired up here with the gold finish. This is from Studio Vertu. And then even this sort of crisp white outdoor furnishings piece, this is from Sunset West. The design is macrame. It's inspired by macrame weave, but it's made decidedly modern in this, this very tailored silhouette. This table, this indoor-outdoor coffee table, is also from Sunset West. It's probably difficult to make out on your screen, but it has a faux bois texture to it. It's reinforced fiber concrete, but it's finished, the surface has a tactility. And I want to just take another style moment to just have you just be mindful of moving into 2021, this importance of tactility moving ahead. So here we have a new design from Callista and ceramic, but it has this incredibly engaging tactile experience behind it as well that ultimately engages the user beyond just the form. Here's an example of, this is a very high-end marble. This is an Italian company that offers this finishing treatment. They call it flex weave. And it just adds this lovely dimension to very high-end marble and ultimately sort of enhances the properties of the material itself, just creating this undulating, sort of very tactile experience. And another example too, you heard me mention to sort of take note of this, the importance of classical scrolls and classical architectural elements. Now, if you've seen and you follow kitchen and bath design, you know that these pattern tiles are coming in pretty strong and make for great flooring solutions and make for great backsplashes. But these stone inlay, the materials with these stone inlays are really kind of becoming viable options for accent walls that don't just add pattern in the way that, say, like a temporary wallpaper adds pattern, but also add this sort of tactile experience and this sort of luxurious look and feel. To that point, this is a new design from Diamond Sofa. There are individual pieces of quartz that are inlaid to create the Gemini table. This is a new design that you can source at the Summer Las Vegas market. And to the idea of this tactility and this modernity and referencing traditional to create this sort of whole new vocabulary, we had Korean companies submitted, well-known brand, submitted some designs for our first look program. And the creative director for Korean company offered up this approach, this comment, these quotes for first look. And Cecil speaking to this idea of this softer approach to modern. And while there are references to trends from the 70s, from the 90s, there's a lot more emphasis on curves. But the key thing too is just these finishes and the texture and this softness, this way of engaging the user in a way that in which they're forming a sort of connection through this like tactile experience. This fixture is new from Korean company. It's actually metal that's crimped to form these lovely pleats. I love the finish name on this fixture. It's called Sugar White, and the finish is a painted gold. This is a great segue piece for me to talk a bit about lighting. This idea of finding traditional-ish furnishings, the lighting category that you can be shopping at Las Vegas Market is serving up quite a number of options. It's becomes sort of a go-to category if you're looking to bring some of that traditional and meets modern sensibility. This is a new design from Cyan. This is their Gerard Pendant, and you heard me mention, adding the word neo to describe a lot of the new designs. This is the neo-nostalgic French country design. Take note that it's brass paired up with the blue to give it that sort of fresh modernness. This is an open frame design that very much looks very similar to what you'd see in traditional lantern. And here's another interpretation of that from Lantern and Scroll. This is also, again, a new exhibitor participating in First Look this time around. Two different suspension options, and you're seeing the solid copper and the aged bronze. Nothing says formal like a laurel leaf. This is a new design from Korean company in which these laurel leaves stem out from the actual candle sleeves. This is Hudson Valley's lighting, Hudson Valley Lighting's take on the wagon wheel chandelier, and talk about using a past form to create a truly modern sensibility, this wonderful circular band upon which each of the bulbs is mounted. A lovely design for sure. This is called Allendale. And even in table lamps here, when you have glass and crystal and metal, absolutely you find yourself at a traditional space. Absolutely has its place in a modern interior as well, whether that's the living room or a bedside table. This is from Pacific Coast Lighting, and it's called Catella. One of the ways that reaching out to these millennials who are looking into their first home purchases is what's the sort of pattern that sort of resonates with them. And what we found is that these sort of incoming nods to William and Morris patterns is definitely something that sort of speaks to this comfort in the traditional yet made modern. Here's two pieces, one from Fazy, the pillows from Classic Home, that sort of speak to this idea of reaching out to this shopper by way of pattern. Another example, whether that's a Windsor chair with a metal back and a reclaimed pine seat, or taking a traditional rug and giving it a blue-gray, very of-the-moment colorway. This pillow is also from Classic Home, and it's part of their collection that's inspired by British art textiles. So definitely a way to connect with those sort of millennial shoppers looking to add bits of traditional into their modern homes. When we reached out for our traditional-ish segment, not only did we receive designs that had clear traditional references, but we also received a number of designs that were dubbed as contemporary modern designs that would find their place in a traditional home. That being said, here was a submission from Diamond Sofa, again, with that sort of tactile experience with the upholstery, swivel chairs here. and the concrete table is new. But what we found was that it kind of brought us back a bit to where we had been maybe in a presentation maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, where we really played up the incoming preference for black and white. And so that being said, again, just a few more of these pieces that were dubbed as the modern piece that you need in a traditional designed space. So this is from Cyan Designs. This table is an open cage design. It's the canasta. And then the light fixtures from Hudson Valley Lighting. Again, this sort of cage design. You can choose from 2 different finishes for this light fixture. And then also a number of black and white submissions as too. This is the chair from Norwalk Furniture. These wall-mounted birds. You can create a really fun sculpture or flock on your wall of these fun wall decor pieces. More pillows from Classic Homes British Arts Textiles collection, and then another fixture from Curry & Company with these sort of defined geometric shapes just to sort of complement that custom stripe that you can choose on this wingback, modern wingback chair from Norwalk Furniture. Same too with metal beds, a very classic, very familiar form. In this case, Modway offers multiple height mounting options, so it's essentially an adjustable height bed. Mid-century modern even gets its own kind of modern remake. This is from Greenington Fine Furniture, and it's handcrafted bamboo to form this lovely, really upper and sophisticated bedroom. Again, that white backdrop creating a very modern mood. That being said, just wanted to point out that the cushions on this platform bed are removable. A couple other furniture submissions that came in, and worth noting, again, moving into 2021, as an alternative to the somewhat common silver oak finishes that we've been seeing for many seasons now in home furnishings, are some of these warmer tones or even different wood species. This is American Black Walnut, and this is a new collection from Whittier Wood Furniture. It's called the Bryce Collection. You can source that at Las Vegas Market this summer. Also a new collection that still plays up this live edge material. I would kind of call this live edge light. This is a new bedroom collection called Pasco from Steve Silver. And lastly, just a new dining collection that came in from Alpine Furniture. It's a faux leather family-friendly chair on this design. Nothing tells us that times have changed, like the whole work from home scenario that many of us now face. I think these 2 images illustrate that point perfectly. And so being mindful of what matters most to consumers as we have been thrust into this work from home scenario. The idea is that, so just a quick stat, I know I'm going to go a little bit over, so stay with me, but when asked back in April about 1,200 full-time employees, what's their preference in terms of working from home? Is this something that you'd like to see more of moving forward? So 43%, close to half, yes, we want to work remotely more often. That being said, and also to our houses we're setting up our houses to lend support to that idea that we can with the kind of control and the kind of connectivity that we ultimately need in order to do so. That being said, work from home and repurposing that unused formal dining room to become a home office, that's very familiar to all of us who've been in the industry for some time. We saw the big wave of massive executive desks with all the storage pieces to go along with it. This whole work from home trend that we're in right now, I think, is underscoring a few things. We need solutions that make sense for all of our family, and we need solutions that we can maybe even tuck into rooms that are being repurposed. And we need solutions ultimately that speak to what we really do and don't need anymore in way of technology. And oftentimes it's just a single screen, a single small device, and everything's being stored in the cloud. This is a new design from Manhattan Comfort. This is the Hampton Desk. It's 35.5 inches wide. And here's another great solution too actually. So this is a adjustable height desk from Twin Star. This is their active life desk. It adjusts from it adjusts to infinite heights from 2 different fixed positions. There are 3 programmable settings that you can specify. So 3 members of the family that you can be set their own preferred height. There's a timer on this design that lets you, that alarms to remind you to sort of stand up and live and work in a more healthful way, get the circulation going, clear your mind, get some new thoughts. And so it's designs like this that are whole home, whole family. You can even, the surface is dry erase. It's got a dry erase friendly glass that you can write little reminders to other family members or memos to other family members. The lamp, meanwhile, is from Pacific Close Lighting with integrated task light into the design itself. The times that we're in have also underscored just how much time we are enjoying spending with our family. What's new in the way of modular sectionals? Well, modular sectionals aren't new. We've been furnishing these great rooms in new homes for some time. So here's some new designs and some new ideas just in terms of making note in this particular category. The top design is Thelma. It's from Classic Home. It's a more modest scale, more modest width. And so in 2 pieces makes it a lot easier to visualize getting this into homes that may not be quite as large as some of these sprawling, expansive spaces. The design on the bottom is Cullen. That's from Porter Designs. Take note that the arms are removable. So you can make that chaise left or right configurable as you so desire, as the homeowner desires, or as they're redecorating plans, or as their family needs change. And that same concept of the removable arms and you can move the chaise is replicated here in this small scale living design from Emerald Home. Take note that there's also some storage and there's also a pull-out sleeper. This is called Langley, and the navy is what's new. Another small scale design, this is from Manhattan Comfort. You know, the more time we're spending in our homes, the more we're contemplating some of those renovation projects, whether it's a kitchen, whether it's a bath, whether it's painting, whether it's getting some new furnishings. This is a great fun way of bringing some color into the powder room, or even if you live in a small scale space, just adding a little bit of personality for sure. And just a last little closing idea in terms of small scale living. Loving Flame, this is a new company for First Look and at Las Vegas Market. The idea here is that you can have that sort of fire pit only on a smaller scale, smaller profile. This piece is about 20 inches wide, and it actually has a water soluble fuel that's odorless. So as it burns, it actually releases water vapor and CO2. That being said, in terms of keeping things aflame and moving forward and igniting our industry, you know, these are challenging times that are daunting for many. But for those of us in home furnishings, you know, it's really put into focus, I think, for a lot of homeowners, a renewal into their home space. It's not about the cocoon where we're retreating and inward. It's about staying connected. But it's also about making those sort of addressing some of those areas in the home that we want to work better for us, or that we have to with some of these new work from home challenges or study from home challenges. That being said, if you just look at some of the stats month over month from where we've been in the lowest sort of points in March and April to where the US Commerce Department shows that furniture sales are for May and June, despite these daunting times, there are some things certainly to be optimistic about. So I want to thank you for joining us for the furnishings segment of First Look. Again, if you go to the chat section, there is a PDF that you can download that references all of the different products that we featured here. And I hope you'll tune in a week from today at same time for the giftware, housewares, and table talk segment. Thank you.
Julie, there was one question regarding who was the manufacturer of the Italian marble?
Sure. So that's a company called Antolin, and they're based in Europe. I just wanted to show you that as a tease to some of the trend programming that we're going to be featuring come fall that really puts emphasis on tactility. So anyway, that company's called Antolin. And I can even, let me see, I'm not always great at getting into the share answer live. And it is Antolini. Excellent, thank you so much. And I hope to see you a week from today for the gift and tabletop and housewares edition.